And Reed's Market is somewhere along here. And what we're going to see when you look at the maps, this road right here, if you go to Wellsville this way, and here, I don't know what we call it other than Route 19. Does that have an official name? Road outside of Reed's. It was called Exchange Street. So the name on the 1924 map is Exchange Street. Now, if you look over the map, of the Methodist Church, you see there's a bridge here, and this is an iron bridge that was over the river. When you walk out of Reed's, you go to the right and you see the concrete bridge. Well, this is the steel bridge that was there, and it looks like the river was in flood stage here. That's what it looks like. And but over here you have a lady, she's hanging out her wash. So,
do you know what the building is?
No.
That's between our house and
This one?
no, down.
This one?
I was told there was a post office.
Post office at one time, it could have been. I think the post office moved around. Right across from the hardware store is where we're going to find the Easton's hardware store. And also down here is where the Catholic Church is now, somewhere in this area. And if you look here in the foreground, it looks like, I don't know, just a bunch of houses here, workman's houses, if you will. These are all wooden structures. You know, one of the reasons we had the fires. So going from this picture then, I want to talk about cameras a minute, because the cameras were really very important with these early postcards. Without these early photo postcards, we would not have these pictures we're looking at. So this is a Kodak camera made by, it's a Brownie camera made by Kodak in Rochester, and I have one of them over here for you to look at. And there was only one lens on it, and you adjusted the focus by moving this bellows in and out, and they had a little indicator down here for 10, 15 feet, 20 feet, and so forth. And this used roll film. I think it was a size 120 roll film. So this is about 1910, this camera. This is another camera that I have sitting over here. This is a Bosch & Lone camera, and it's a negative plate camera. The negative sits in the plate, and that's about a 3.5 by 5 inch negative. And I think that a negative like that would show the detail that we just saw on that postcard. So it had to be a large negative. And this camera was made in 1897. If you look at it, it's all wood construction, and the metal is on the front where you have the lens, and you have these mechanisms. There's the shutter where you press the shutter. I'm not sure what these are. So you can look at that camera over there also. This is a picture of the bridge that we saw. So this is going out of town. Up here, I'm going to call this Smoker Hill over here. And there's a panoramic view over here at the table on the right, taken from there, down looking at Genesee about 1924. So there's a magnifying glass to help you look at it. Everything's pretty small there. So you can see the pipe condensery there pretty easily. Now when we blow, then there's snow on the ground, so this was winter time. And if we blow up the picture, what do we see right here? It looks like a sleigh. It looks like a one-horse sleigh. And Ann and I bought a sleigh at a local auction, and that sits right out here. You probably wonder why we have a sleigh here in July, in June. No, it is July now. We bought that at a local auction, and it could have been a sleigh that was up at the Ellis house in Ellisburg. One of the old-timers up there says they remember seeing a sleigh on the porch. So, who knows? but the sled was made by the Binghamton Wagon Company in the early 1900s, late 1800s. And there's some boys over here also. Do I have a good imagination, or can everybody see that? Can everybody see the sleigh there? Can you see it, Dwayne? Here's the back, here are the runners. And the people sitting up here, there's a little gal, she must be small. They have a blanket here. Anyway, that's a one-horse sleigh. Once more, this is from a postcard. The train station is when you come out of Reeds, you cross over the bridge, you walk on it, or maybe 100 yards, then you go to the left. And that's the location of the train depot. This train depot is not the original. Is the original one. It burned down about 1912. And what's interesting about it is here it says, there's Buffalo and this is Susquehanna. The Buffalo and Susquehanna Railroad went from Buffalo down through Wellsville on all points in between to Genesee. It went down to Gailton, then it went down to Williamsport, then it went to Philadelphia or branched off to New York. So in 1910 or so, if you wanted to go on a trip to Philadelphia, you would take the train into here, and get on here, then you could wind your way down. We see there are several horse and buggies here. There's looks like a young gal or a lady sitting down with a hat and two gentlemen talking. Here we see Genesee, the American Express Company, and in here you have, you see telegraph. The telegraph was invented about 1840 by Samuel Morse, and very quickly it became popular because it was the first time people could instantly communicate with somebody on the other side of the state 100 miles away. And the telegraph company made a deal with the railroad. The railroad says if you can run your wires down the track, then we can use it for free and we won't charge you for the wires. So every depot had a telegraph set in it. And there may be 10 depots in a line, and they all heard the same signal at the same time, and they had to respond when their call sign came along. And we have over here, there's a telegraph set, and it was, well, we'll see that in a little bit. It's from parts that were made about 1900. And you can go over there and tap the key right here, and this is the sounder. You'll be able to hear the same clickety-clack that they heard back in 1900. And this is a relay that amplified the signal coming down the line. But right now you tap the key and you can hear the sounder. So this is something you can touch over here. You can tap the key right there. This is the station that was built after the other one burned down. And here you can see this is the Buffalo and Susquehanna track. There was only one track. This went up to Wellsville. This went down to places to the south and west. It went down to Germania. No, I'm sorry, it went down to Gailton. This is the New York and Pennsylvania track that crossed over right there. Up here, it goes up to Whitesville, and it ends in Canisteo. The New York and Pennsylvania Railroad went from Canisteo down through Rexville, Whitesville, Genesee, Ellisburg, Andrews, Sonoma, and it wound its way around up to Shingle House, and it ended in Ceres. It was something like 54 miles of track, but it just opened up the whole Genesee area. If you were a farmer along the line, you could put a flag up, the train would stop for you, and then you could put your milk on it, your hay on it, or whatever produce you wanted. There are some balls here, and some of you may have heard of the High Ball Express. When the balls were up high, that meant the track was clear, that you could go through. And here's a semaphore right here. There's a ticket agent booth right here. There's a card here, and we have a warehouse here. So this one is still standing. It's in disrepair right now. And if you talk to Tink, you may be able to walk back and see it. So these tracks are not there at all right now. This is one of the maps again, and I have that here because it shows, this is the passenger depot we just saw. This is the Buffalo and Susquehanna rail line. This is the Nip Railroad where it goes up to Whitesville, and this goes down through Genesee and on to Ellisburg. What's interesting here is that there was a grist mill located here too in 1924. It was owned by E.P. Daly, and it's a grist mill. The farmers took in their wheat and it would grind up and you get flour. And this is Exchange Street, which I said is now, I don't know, we call it Route 19, or going in the up direction, you go to Wellsville, you go by Reed's.
Turns into School Street.
Commercial Street.
Is that Commercial Street now?
It turns into School Street?
No, School Street's the way.
Oh, okay.
Commercial Street comes around and turns into a Saturday Street.
Okay. Down here is a potato dealer, a gentleman named Lickhard and Company. He's a potato dealer. So the farmers would bring their potatoes into here. He would buy them and find sellers on the train line to move them along. So once more, this is another map here. Sanborn was very condensed the way they did things. And this is West Avenue. This is Julie Morseman lives right here, and Butch lives over here. I used to call this an alley, but now it's West Avenue. So the township has to do something. Miss Christine Smith, we have to get a sign here that says West Avenue. So we don't have to call it an alley anymore. Isn't that neat though? It had a name way back then. And there were a lot of companies in the area. This is a picture off a postcard going up to Wellsville, and it says this is crossing, I think it's crossing the Kiter Creek here. I don't know if this is what you call the trestle. I think the trestle's further out. Is this the trestle?
There's a couple of them up through there.
Oh, there's another one further out.
Trestle's back in the woods near the park.
All right. And if you come back this way on the track, you get to the train depot we were just talking about. This is taken up in Whitesville, and there's a bridge there. And if you're coming from Whitesville, you're coming down to the school, you would cross this bridge. And this is the Nip Railroad crossing there. And this is a passenger car. They had a freight car, and this is the steam engine, puffing and puffing. And the passenger car was probably heated by a coal stove. And over here we have a model, the garden scale model of the passenger car. It looks just like that. So this is the stovepipe. So they had the stove here. I think when it was very cold in the winter, you got pretty chilly. But this is on the way down to Genesee. This is another postcard, and down here it has the Nip Railroad in Genesee, I believe. And it's in the winter, obviously. And we have the steam engine here, and it looks like the freight car and the passenger car back here. A long time ago, we knew Joe James. Terry, you knew Joe James?
You didn't really know him.
No? Joe James was an old timer. He was about my age back in 1980, so he was really old. And he used to ride the train from Andrew Sonoma. He said he went to school. And I don't know if he went to school in Genesee or if he went up to Canisteo. And he said the train never went very fast because the rails were not all straight. They were curvy and they went up and down. So if it went over 5 or 6 miles an hour, it may jump the track. So this is the Nip Railroad. So I think this was taken about 1910, 1912. There was only one track for the Buffalo and Susquehanna, and this is showing a wreck, and I'm told that this happened around Hickox. So here you see one engine, and here's the other engine, and they met. And that somebody was not following the schedule, or the telegraph was not working. I don't know what it was. But we had the
That happened right to you, the road crosses all my house.
Okay.
Richard Eaton, or Audrey Eaton, Nelson, they had some pictures of it.
Did they? Ah, more than this then.
Just for a long time, they said,
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody got hurt or not, but the engineers, they sure had a problem. But here, look at all the people that came out to look over it.
Where did you say that happened?
It was in Hickox.
That one there on that new building? Was it one on Redford on
They said there was one, we found that old yoke.
Yeah.
They gave to Larry at the time when they had the environmental
Right,
center.
then that was bought by the Potter County Historical Society. It was a
Oh,
big,
bought that?
it was the bell yoke
Yeah.
that they had.
We gave it to Larry, we were cleaning up down
Yes.
there and it was all full of stuff, so we came across it.
I think there was a branch line that ran down that way, and there was a lumber mill down there at one time.
Yep.
If you go down, when you go by, when you keep right because you don't have to stop, and you look to the right, there's a bridge abutment right there, and that's part of the V&S Railroad. You can still see the bridge abutment. It's pretty tall and it's flat at the top, it comes down. So somewhere around there, these trains met. And that was September 11th, 1911. Now, when I get back into town, this is from a postcard again, and this is the island in the middle that we now have flags around. Here's the hotel, the Genesee House. This is a pretty cool picture. The road's all dirt. When you blow it up and look at it, first of all, this looks like a flag right here. So I'm just saying this was some holiday, maybe the 4th of July. So you have a lot of people down here that looks like they're all facing with their backs toward us. And you have a lot of buggies here, and these buggies do not look like the ones we were seeing before. These look like they were maybe Cadillacs of the time, maybe some dignitaries or politicians came in. Maybe this was a political rally. You know, we just don't know. But something was going on in town. And from what I read, back about 1897, the old folks had a reunion. I think they call it the old folks reunion, where there were several hundred people came out, and they had all sorts of games and things going on, and they had that for several years. And that was down here in the park. Across from Exchange Street, Commercial Street, right here, here's the hotel. This is where Kirkville is right now. There was a boys' home right now. I think this was the Oddfellows' home. I think it's on the map over there. I'm not sure about that. But that's Genesee about 1911. Pretty cool. The island was there then. This is up at the other end of town now. Over here is a hardware store. This house, I believe, is the one that's still there. The Catholic Church sits down here someplace. It's a dirt road still, about 1911, 1912. Here is the boardwalk, literally a boardwalk. And there are two men over here just crossing over. But look at what we have here. We have two young ladies, and look at their hats.
Wow.
I wish we had a color picture of those hats. It was a Victorian fashion in those times. Queen Victoria, she was in mourning forever because Albert died, and people wore long dresses and black, and I think that's why they were called Victorian. But they were standing on the porch of the house next door, and over here is where we have the Easton Hardware store. Now, I said I have a lively imagination. Well, what do you think these guys look like? They do. They look like the Keystone Cops. It looks like there's a belt and there's maybe a pistol there. So
All right.
something was going on here also, and I don't know what it was, but you can see there are a lot of people down here walking back. Maybe things are all over. What you have a horse and buggy here, and it looks like there's a couple with two young children here. There's a flag flying here, and this could be a gas lamp. I'm not really sure what this is, but the sign says that they do sell gasoline and auto supplies. The gas lamp? And I haven't figured out this chap right here. What is he doing? Does he have one leg? Or what is that? I don't know. Is he sitting down? He could be in a uniform. Don't know. There's a lot of farm implements here on the porch also.
Looks like a matador.
This guy looks like he was sleeping. But you can visualize a camera like that big camera over there, and the exposure here was maybe a second or so. So it took a while before that exposure was made. And down here is another sign, and this is, oops, I'm backed up, right? We shouldn't be there yet. You didn't see that.
Wow. Foreshadowing.
This is the Genesee and Reed Hardware, which I think is the hardware store. But that's what the banner says. Maybe they were doing a lot of advertising. So the Genesee and Reed hardware store is here, and there's a buggy outside. And we have this house right here. Okay, there's the picture I took the other day. So I think that house was right here. They had a floor here and here, and they had different kind of posts. We have the Catholic Church sitting here right now. So the Eastern Hardware store sat right in here. And the road's blacktop. Yes?
That building with the porch up there is where Kenyon's general store was.
Oh, was that right here? Okay. The Kenyon, I guess that was a candy store.
Well, it was a general store.
General store.
They had everything.
Is that, Junior, is that where you went to buy your candy when you were a youngster?
Yeah. And I was close enough to school.
They,
Right enough recess